to mention how it all started with a massacre, a Hamas massacre of 1,200 Israelis, burning babies, cutting heads off, raping women. Does it make sense to you that they omitted all of that and started only after, that they happened to forget that? Does that make sense?
Is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? Well, that's the claim of the new idiotic UN report. But take a look at this clip over here with the interviewer from Sky News talking to Naftali Bennett. And this interviewer is usually very anti-Israel and comes with questions and with a base that was very slanted against Israel. However, you'll notice in this conversation, in this debate over here, he seems to be getting warmed up to the ideas of Naftali Bennett. So let's watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
The UN Commission of Inquiry is very clear that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. It amounts, this more than 70 pages, to a pretty grave indictment. What is your response?
It's a sloppy piece of report. You certainly would agree with me that in 72 pages, it would have made sense to mention how it all started with a massacre, a Hamas massacre of 1,200 Israelis, burning babies, cutting heads off, raping women. Does it make sense to you that they omitted all of that and started only after, that they happened to forget that? Does that make sense?
Well, this is the same UN commission that did hold an inquiry after October the 7th, accused Hamas of abhorrent and intolerable war crimes on and after October the 7th. But I mean, isn't that the point, that war has rules, those rules are clear, and they apply to both sides?
Of course, and Israel operates under the international rules of conduct across the board. Every time we identify a terrorist in a civilian building, we notify the people in that building well in advance, millions of leaflets, tens of millions of text messages. That's not genocide. That certainly is not how genocide looks.
Right.
And 2 years into the war, when we're talking about roughly a ratio of civilian to combat deaths of 1 to 1, you'd agree that that certainly is not genocide.
Let's just look at one of what the commission says is an act of genocide which the Israeli authorities are committing. It's deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about destruction of the group in whole or in part through destruction of land and structures essential to Palestinians, destruction of and denial of access to medical services, forced displacement, blocking essential aid, water, electricity and fuel from reaching Palestinians. I'm just interested, which one of those things do you say is not happening, or rather has not happened?
None of them has happened. What has happened is that Hamas turned almost every other home in Gaza into a terror base. And according to international law, when you turn a home into a terror base, it becomes a terror base. You can't protect yourself by shooting rockets from within a home. I'll give you one extraordinary example, Mark. On page 29 of the report, it talks about Israel deliberately targeting a specific hospital. What they forgot to mention in that report is that we targeted Muhammad Sinwar, the architect of this whole massacre and war. Is that not sloppy in your opinion?
Right. So let's go back to that. You say none of this is happening or has happened. Destruction of land and structures essential to Palestinians. That's clearly happened. Destruction of and denial of access to medical services. We've had doctors giving evidence that that's happened. Forced displacement we are seeing. Blocking essential aid, water and electricity and fuel, that's also happened, hasn't it?
All of these things that you're mentioning happen in every urban war. In every urban war, there's buildings that are destroyed, there's problems. The question is one of intent and of action. And what we're doing is bending over backward to allow, and we've allowed 2 million tons of aid, of which 1.6 million are food into Gaza. Is that genocide? Come on. We've conducted 600,000 vaccines of polio to kids in Gaza. Is that genocide? Come on, you know this is nonsense. You know it.
You're talking about intent.
That's not what genocide looks like. This is ridiculous. It'll be another report that'll be thrown into the garbage can of the lies in history. And don't be part of it.
Well, listen, you talk about intent. Now, what the Commission is claiming, that it is evident in the words used by senior leaders in Israel, so specifically the former Defense Minister Gallant, who said, we're fighting human animals and we will act accordingly.
Yes, and Hamas is human animals. We're talking about Hamas.
Right. Well, President Herzog...
Al-Qaeda is human animals. Hamas is human animals. The Nazis were human animals. No one's talking about the citizens. Well, this is just distorting. No, this is, and you shouldn't play to that.
I'm not playing to anything. I'm just going to say that the other quote they use is President Herzog, who states it's an entire nation out there who is responsible. That is the quote the Commission uses to determine the intent. That's the President Herzog quote.
No, but that's a distortion. What he said, and what is correct, is that the Gaza public, most of it does support the massacre of October 7th. That's a fact. Right. We know that there were mass celebrations everywhere.
But you have to accept there are innocent Palestinians in Gaza. You have to accept.
No doubt. And we operate under that assumption.
Just let me talk finally about this assault that is now going on. Your defense minister has declared Gaza is burning. I just wonder, when does this end? What can you achieve now that you have not been able to achieve in, 2 years?
It ends at the moment Hamas releases the hostages and lays down its arms. We do not want to fight anyone in Gaza. We don't want to have a war. We didn't initiate this war. We have no territorial desires or aspirations for Gaza. This is a one-sided thing. They want to kill us. Razi Hamed, after October 7th, said, we're going to launch again and again attacks until we annihilate Israel. So the moment they decide to stop killing Jews, this whole thing will end. And release
just one last point. The mother of one of the captive soldiers said this morning, we are terrified this might be their last night, that the living hostages will pay with their lives, that the deceased will disappear. Have you given up being concerned about the fate of the hostages?
I agree with her. And I think most of Israelis agree that, and we are horrified. And thinking about these 48 Israelis that are in cages, literally in cages, being starved to death. They're the only people who are going through deliberate starvation. And it's horrifying. And by the way, in Israel,
but is this the way to get them out, do you think?
So in Israel, there is public debate about what's the best mechanism, and many disagree. That's what being a democracy means, that you can debate openly. By the way, in Gaza, you can't. They'll shoot you in the knees and kill your family if you debate them.
Naftali Bennett, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think another interesting point that was brought up about the genocide claim is that here you have the people of Gaza, if they truly are being genocided, if that is really the intention. I do find it odd that out of all of the history of situations like this in the world, right, when there's a genocide happening, this is the first time where the populace that's living there is not only not encouraged to move, they're prevented from moving. Don't you leave that area. Don't leave Gaza. They've been assisted. They've been offered assistance to leave. There's been the Trump plan perspective of moving them somewhere else. All sorts of things. A lot of discussion about it, and the reaction is always, no, they have to stay. They have to be there. So which one is it? Is there a genocide happening? And if there is, why wouldn't you want to get these people out as soon as possible? This is the only time in world history that I'm aware of that such a thing has happened, that the international community is sort of forcing the inhabitants of the area to remain exactly where they are, not to find shelter anywhere else. The truth of the matter is that there is no genocide happening, but it's such a bizarre thing to say. It's the same people that are claiming genocide that are also screaming from the hilltops when anybody even suggests that the people, the inhabitants of Gaza, that they leave even temporarily. I don't know why it's such a contradiction of terms. I guess we'll never know. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.